Good day everyone and welcome back to the flight deck. Today we're going to be taking a look at PMPG's 737-800 and we're going to take a look at how I fly this airplane. Now I'm not an expert in flying the 737, I've just started with it, but hopefully these tips and little tricks that I've learned will help you get her set up and be able to fly it fairly quickly and start enjoying this excellent aircraft. So let's hop on board and we will get her all started. Before we do that, we are here in Edmonton International Airport in Alberta, Canada, and we're going to be flying it down to Vancouver, British Columbia. Flight's about an hour and 50 minutes or so, and we'll be running through cockpit preparation, setup, how to program the FMC, engine start, taxi, takeoff, cruise, descent planning, the descent itself, landing, and then taxiing it and aircraft shutdown. Welcome aboard the 737. Your aircraft may look slightly different depending on how it's configured. Different instrument options and the heads-up display may be on or off, as well as other things. But for Swoop Airlines, this is the way this one is set up. So let's take a seat in the pilot side and we can get ourselves ready to go. Alright, so we're here in the cockpit and the aircraft is cold and dark. First thing we're going to do is set the parking brake. The way you do that is you got to push down the brake pedals and then pull up on the lever. It is now done. We're going to come up to the overhead and we're going to turn on the battery and then we'll close the guard. We're going to turn on the emergency light switch and then close the guard, and we're going to confirm our ground power. So we'll come down to the panel down here. This is our FS Actions and PMPG setup. FS Actions will give you all of your options for your service. Now if you go in on the left side, such as fuel, you can directly enter the amounts in here with instant loading. Same with your payload, same with your passenger counts. As you can see, your doors, you can open and close your doors, and you can do your pushback. Cabin lights, I haven't seemed to be able to get it to work. Not sure if that's actually working or not. Ground service maintenance, you can check all the oils and refill stuff. Usually if you've got failures on and you have to use any. The one we want here is ground service. So the chocks are in place, but we have no ground power set up, so we're on aircraft battery. So what we're going to do is we're going to request the ground power, and you can see it says it is connecting. So there's the ground power cart there. The door is now open. They've now plugged it in, and we should be getting power any second now. That should turn to release. There we go, and that means we now have ground power. If we come back up to the overhead, it says ground power is available, so let's turn it on. Ground power is available, and the air systems have come up on board. Now, lights as required. We are on the stand here. There's power to the aircraft, so we're going to turn the position lights down to steady. And then we are going to start the IRSs aligning. So we'll go up one more panel, and we're going to turn the two IRSs over to nav. Now what we can do is, if it was nighttime, this is where our overhead dome light would be, and we can turn this on and off to provide some extra illumination. So we're going to drop back down here. We're going to turn our passenger signs on to auto. There we go. Now, electric hydraulic pumps. These are our hydraulic pumps here. The engine-driven pumps are on. That's fine. We're going to turn the electric ones on, so they'll now come alive and provide us some hydraulic pressure. Yaw damper up here on the upper left, we will now turn on. Window heat, we have 4 switches. There's the front windows and side windows for both the pilot and co-pilot, or captain and first officer. They will come on. We're going to come down here and turn on the left I always say left. It's left aft fuel tank. That provides fuel flow for the APU. And we're going to start the APU. Now, it's very simple. All we have to do is put the switch to on and then hold it in the start position. It will click up on its own when it's ready. Got a little bit of a reading here, and that is starting up the APU. And we'll see that start to rise. When that stabilizes and we're ready to use it, you'll see that the lights will come on here and we'll be able to switch over. There you go, temperature's coming up as she fires off. It should drop down and stabilize. So if you don't know, the APU is a small jet engine located in the tail of the aircraft. While it's running, it provides a little bit of air for starting the engines, and it provides electrical power for the aircraft, so that you could actually disconnect from the generators. See, there we go. Gen off bus, that means she's ready to go. So if we click down on the two switches, we've just switched over to APU power. And that is good. So after 1 minute, we can turn on the APU bleed, which we will do. But I'm going to come up here and turn the left and right packs to auto. You'll hear the air start flowing in the back. I'm going to come up here to the isolation valve, make sure it is open, and then we're going to turn on the two recirculation fans and get them going. So there's the aircraft basically turned on. If we look up here on our power panel, that's showing our ground power, but we can also turn it over to the APU, and we can see the power that's coming off the APU. So we'll come back down here, see the aircraft. She's powered up, the navigation lights are all on. So these are all up, and that is fine. So I'm going to do some quick loading. You can do the passengers if you want, however you want to do it. For the sake of this video, we're just going to do a quick load for everything, so we get them loaded in. So we're going to come down to the FMC and start setting it up. So we're going to come out of the menu and go into the FMC. First thing we have to do is enter the aircraft position. So we go to pause init. This is the old way of doing it, reference airport and gate, but we have the GPSs on board. So we'll go over to page 2. We'll grab the left GPS position. There it is there. We'll go back to page 1 and insert it in, and the aircraft now knows where it is. So we can come over to our route page. So our route today, as I mentioned, is from Edmonton to Vancouver. We're going to be departing off of runway 30 out of Edmonton. There is no SID. It is a direct out to the first waypoint. But what we're going to do is we're going to request the flight plan. So we're going to click on request. And there is our flight plan. It's the only one that's in the folder. You can enter all the ways in manually, but we're going to use this. So we're flying swoop. I don't know what the call sign is, so I'm going to go SWP, and we'll make this flight 100. Maybe not. But that's fine. There's our route. Maybe it'll let me put it in here. SWP 100. There we go. So there's our route. If we go to the next page, we can request now the flight plan. Uplink is ready. We'll now load it. It's uploading. It does take a little bit of time. simulating the time it takes to load these flights in. And we'll activate the flight, execute. So now if we go to our legs page, you can see some of the legs that are in for the route. So those are the correct major waypoints. So let me bring up my Navigraph. There we go. So you can see we're leaving Edmonton. It's going to be direct out to the Andy waypoint, which is the first one. Then it's going to be the NADP, Myrtle, and then down to Booth. From Booth, we're going to be doing the Stav 8 arrival. So we're going to fly down here. We have restrictions that we'll talk about. We're going to come down this way over the mountains into the Fraser Valley, or not Fraser Valley, the Vancouver area here. Down, and we're going to be landing on runway 26 right on the ILS. So that is the basic plan that we're going to be following. So what I can do now is I can go to our departures. So we're departing, we're not going off on any of the SIDS, we're just going off on runway 30. We'll execute that. So we're basically going to be climbing out to about 1,500 feet above the ground, and then we'll turn towards the first waypoint. We'll go back to our departure arrival into Vancouver. As mentioned, we are landing on the ILS for runway 26 right. So we're going to go to the next page. Select ILS 26 right. And we're going to go down here to the Stav 8 arrival, which is the one we want. No transitions, or we're transitioning to Booth onto it. There's no transition to the ILS. It is actually vectors. And we will execute, and if we go back to our legs, we'll see we have Booth, so Stabby should come after Booth. We'll execute that. And if we compare it with our actual entry, Mogus, Abbott is correct, and then it is into Gregor and Tatim, and then down to the runway. That is looking all good. We can see our restrictions here. 3,000 foot intercept at Gregor is correct. Alright, so that is our route in now. Now, the next thing we can do is some of our warning tests. So if we go to the upper top, we can do our Mach speed warning test. That's our overspeed. We can do our stick shaker test. That's pilot and co-pilot side is all working. If we come down here on the panel here, we can check out a couple of things. This is our, let's see if I can get a better view here. There's our initial fault, autopilot detect, our APU detect an op, and then there's one here. There we go, there's our engine fires, they all lit up. And that is done. And now if we look over here, and we push this button here, we'll get the full system test for all these GWPS, I think it is, GPWS, ground warning, terrain warning, all that type of stuff.
Glide slope. Pull up. Wind shear. Wind shear. Wind shear. Terrain. Terrain. Pull up. Airspeed low. Airspeed low.
So it's doing all its tests. So we can come down now and put in our fuel loads and all that type of stuff. And again, I am going to do this in the quick fashion. No, I want FS actions. So our fuel for today is, let me just look it up on the flight plan. And we are operating in kilograms. We are in Canada. So our block fuel for today's flight is going to be a total of 6.3 tons, but it actually wants the actual number, so it's 6329. We'll enter that in there. That's our fuel done. We can do our payload. So if we go to our weights section of the flight plan, our takeoff weight will be 66.4. Our payload weight. So our number of packs are 179 passengers. In economy, this is an economy flight. And our payload is 18.6. So our cargo is 4.5, so I'm going to go 2,000 and 2,500 in the aft. Just looking at how we're looking at our. Alright, so we are pretty good there. So we are basically loaded up, and we have everything programmed in at the moment on the FMC. Now for performance, I am using a little calculator that is called VAS Airplane Toolbox. I will put a link in the description below, and it's a little web-based program that will allow us to do all our programming. So I can't bring it up on the screen because it's on a different thing, but I'm just bringing up all the information, getting the weather. Basically it wants the runway length, current weather, and our planned takeoff weight. So if we come back to our payload, it's showing our about 68.5. So we'll go 68,500 flaps optimum. It'll give us all that information. Weather is in. We'll calculate. All right. We'll come back down to the screen here. We're going to go back into the FMC. We're going to go to our initialization. And now we do our performance initialization. So our gross weight is 65.3. Our planned fuel was 6.3. Our reserve is 1 ton. Cost index of 25. Cruising altitude for today's flight level 360. And I want you to do these in order as well. Cruise winds, I'm getting this off of the flight plan, is 235 at 25 knots. Transition altitude of 18,000 feet. We will execute that. And that is all fine. We can go to our N1 limits now. These are the engine limits. So this is saying we're going to do a TO2 takeoff. on a derate. So that is derating the engine so they don't run at full power, use up extra fuel, burn things off, stuff like that. And we're going to do a climb 1 as we depart. So that is all good. Our cell temp is not available. And for our takeoff data, it wants us to do a flaps 5 takeoff. Our CG trim, if we click it, it will tell us what our trim is going to be and what position it has to be in. And then there's our speeds, so we can plop them in. So we have a V1 of 139, a VR of 140, and a V2 of 146. So that is all set up. So ideally the boarding would be finishing about now, and everything would be good. So we're going to go over to the FMC and give you the legs page over on that side. So at this point we've called up, we get our clearance from ATC. We have no ATC for today's flight, so that is fine. And once we had that, we can carry on setting up. So we are on live weather. So the Barrow 29er, and we're in inches, 29er82. So we'll set that up. 29er82 is set. Transponder, we would enter our transponder code down here. We're going to set 2000. There we go. 2000 is set. Fueling, loading, and boarding is now complete. Fuel is correct. Takeoff data is set. We have the 139 V1 speed showing, so that is all good. Cruise altitude pressurization panel and our landing panel. So as mentioned, we are going to 36,000 feet, so we're going to dial that in for the pressurization. Goes up by 500s. Now our landing elevation, we can set it later, but since we have the chart available, we'll look at it now. So the airport elevation in Vancouver is 13 feet, so we'll leave that at 0. MCP, all right. Let's get the MCP set up. So our initial climb is going to be 10,000 feet. Runway heading is 300 degrees. Since we're not going off to a star, we're going to be basically following heading mode for the initial takeoff. We'll set that up there. And our climb out speed is going to be V2 plus 20. So it's 146. We're going to set that to 166 as our initial climb out. It will go over to VNAV pretty soon after takeoff. That is all good. Flight directors can now come on both sides. We've got the arrows and the indicators. Radios, we're not on VATSIM or anything, but we'll set the VATSIM Unicom frequency of 12280, and it is now set. So we are connected to the jetway, as you can see, and we do have the GPU still connected. So if we come down here, actually I like using Roger's side over here for this, leave mine alone. So we'll come over here to Roger's side. We're going to go into ground services. We're going to release the ground power since we are on the APU. And everything else is looking good. This is where you can enter your baggage information and do that. We're going to release the jetway. And if we come over here and check our doors, doors should be good. Back to menu, FMC and legs. So you can see the jetway is now pulled away. Doors are closed. And the aircraft is now disconnected. Alright, So now, oops, shouldn't have gone out of that. Now we can go to ground equipment. We'll go to ground services. So the GPU card has been pulled away. Yeah, we can confirm that. Last thing we have to do now is remove the chocks. Chocks are removed, and we can request our push and start clearance. And that's where we're gonna leave it for this video. And we hope to see you next time when we'll cover the push, engine start, taxi out, and take off and climb to cruise. Hope this has helped with flying the PMDG 737-800. And we will see you on the next one. Bye for now.